we go again. It's March. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to be your host, Dana Durnford, aka Shit Disturber, aka I wrote a song today. You can call in to 709-589. Waiting for the protesters to quiet down. Way to go, you guys. You're awesome. March 27th? March 27th. I'm going to have to hang up the phone there. The protesters are too loud. Oh, that's right. There's no protesters. Yet. So, should he resign? This is Chris Leaky Clark, the president of Xcel. We got like 130 clicks to get through of that. Then we get into the rest of the nuclear news. And so this is a serious event they got going on in Monticello, Minnesota, on the Mississippi River, on the iconic Mississippi River. Let's bring up the poll quickly before we jump into it. Leaky and leak. Should Chris the Leaky Clark, Xcel's energy president, resign over the Monticello nuclear power plant leak scandal? The leakity leak. I wrote a song, Leak the leaky dragon, leak by the sea. Okay, I didn't write the whole thing. I stole a few lyrics maybe, but I thought it was pretty good. It's got potential. I'm going to contact an agent, see if they'll get it sold for me. Hey, here we go. Let's get after it, eh? First off, I want to talk about nuclear power because we got 130 clicks to get through on just Monticello. Monticello, is that how you pronounce that? I like the name, I just can't say it tonight for some reason. So, new wind and solar up 50% globally in 2020. That's a pretty interesting one because renewables that came online in 2020 were equal to 300 large nuclear power plants in just 12 months. It's 12 months. So, the International Energy Agency in 2021 said they see renewables overtaking fossil fuels. Think of that statement, overtaking fossil fuels and nuclear, because they're running on 2 gas, oil, and coal plants dedicated to them for their whole life, because they can't run on their own energy, right? By 2026, it's 3 years away, because there's a revolution, despite the fact that they drove the prices of the commodity artificially through the roof with self-inflicted inflation on 195 countries. The UN, United Nations. So a record volume of energy expected to come online in 2021 with 290 gigawatts. There's 333 large nuclear power plants in 12 months. Nuclear was 0.4 gigawatts. So less than half a large nuclear plant came online. Surpasses 2020 records, where renewables accounted for all the new electricity capacity installed worldwide. Think of that statement. Last year, renewables accounted for all of the new growth as coal, natural gas, and nuclear power shrank. So that's pretty impressive. But they're not. The very fraction of that was the geothermal, which is the holy grail, right? It's under everybody's feet. You just got to go deep enough. And we have lasers and particle beams that can evaporate rock and get down to those temperatures that are necessary to compete with the commodity energy sector. This year's record renewable electricity additions of 290 gigawatts are yet another sign that a new global energy economy is emerging. A new global energy world order is emerging. The agency says that between 2020 and 2026, renewables will grow by 60% more to 4,800 gigawatts. That's a significant number. That's equal to the capacity of all fossil fuel nuclear power plants combined worldwide in another 3 years. So think about 3 years after that, 2029. What's going to be online? Because the production is getting cheaper, the equipment is more efficient, more effective, the chain is more established. And you don't need, once you double that, you don't need any more. Right? And so the nuclear industry is trying to get the biggest chunk of pie that they can right now before investors and policymakers wake up. Which is roughly the size and capacity of all fossil fuel nuclear power plants combined. Oh, that was interesting, wasn't it? Yeah, that's how that works. That's interesting. Where did black screen come from? Which is roughly the size and capacity of all fossil fuels worldwide. So the Minnesota radioactive leak that is leaking. That leaked. This is such a strange story, so I set it up this way. So, water containing radioactive material. So we covered this story last night, but when you look at it this way, what does the story say? Leak is leaking and leaked. The leak is leaked and leak. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So what are they trying to do when every other sentence has the word leak into it? So I'll read it to you, what your subconscious does with this. Leak, leaked, leaked, leak, leaking, leaked, leaked, leaking, leak. Leaked, leak, leaked, leak, 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 leaking, leak. Monticello nuclear power plant down for leak. Leak. You're going to cut out the pipe which is over 50 years old, Timmy. It's leaking. It's leaked, leaking, leaked. They're going to have the pipe analyzed. He should resign because there's a minimum of 400,000 gallons, 1.5, 1.6 million liters, onto frozen ground that can't absorb into the ground because it's, frozen. And so everything is downhill to the Mississippi River. This is not a leak we're talking about, but this is this incredible release that's gone on for 4 months. They didn't want to say nothing because they'd done all this work to put in an application to extend the life of the plant for 20 years. Not 5, but 20. Because renewables are going to surpass everything in another 3 years. And that technology will double, right? The leaking of the leak. The temporary closure could be out of abundance of caution, or it could be a sign they don't know how bad the problem is, but they need to do the deep dive to figure out what's going on. He said the tritium isn't a risk to drinking water in the nearby cities, which is upriver. Hard cases, right? saying the cities takes their water from different areas of the Mississippi River, even if the tritium reaches the river, which is right at their fingertips. And we're talking about 10,045-gallon drums worth. Assured wouldn't happen. It would dissipate within a few yards. This is absurdness to suggest it doesn't dissipate. It's radioactive. It just spreads out. It doesn't go away. You can't destroy it. It can destroy you, but you can't destroy it. So the leak that was leaking leaks, Chris Clark, Xcel president, we'll get there someday today. I suggest that he should, in good faith, resign so they don't have to prosecute him later, see? Because you know, once everybody goes back to sleep, he's going to get a performance bonus for doing all the PR work in person. Should Chris the Leaky Leaker, Leaks by the Leak, Clark, Xcel Energy's president, resign over the Monticello nuclear power plant that's leaking scandal. This is a scandal. This is outrageous. Waited 4 months to tell people he should resign because he done that, right? He made that decision. Chris the Leaky Clark did. The utility reported the initial leak to the state and federal authorities, who turned their backs on you, but didn't make it widely public until the past week. And who's going to fire them? Nobody. What's the incentive for them to lie? Nobody's going to say anything to them. So if we don't come out and say it, that's the end of it. All the propaganda wins. And they're going to win anyway, aren't they? Raising questions about transparency and public health issues. Like, they were way ahead of it. They were planned. So when the media came out, they had everything, all the pictures and everything ready to go. Oh, we're going to have a meeting. Come on in. We got a leaked and the leaking on our site here. Here, take this, take that, take this. Don't we donate to you all the time? Don't your son work here? What are you doing here? State officials says because of the Stockholm Syndrome, right? The fact that the president of Xcel is on ground zero doing all the talking is because you can't trust anybody else to keep the lie straight, right? That's what that's all about. And so if he resigns, which he should do, in good faith, they should still prosecute him, but maybe the judge will go easy on him. State official says they wanted to wait for more details before sharing information widely. You know why you got almost 100 sirens around a nuclear power plant within 10 miles? So you don't do that. Criticism about the delay played a role in Xcel's decision to hold a public information session Friday. No, that was all set up before they announced they had a leak that was leaking from the leak. You know I'm right. Come on, give me some leak in here. Tritium. Oh my God, not tritium. 3H, by the way. Is a radioactive isotope of hydrogen that occurs naturally. Well, tritium's natural. Tritium 3H is not. Nuclear power plants don't make tritium, they make tritium 3H. There's actually a difference. Wait, now my leak is leaking here. I gotta fix it. So I can solve my problems. I admitted I had a problem, told you what it was, and I solved it. That's more than they've done. There were no leaks coming out of there, I noticed. Also worries about whether the radioactive material could leak into wildlife. Of course it could. It gets in your body. Your first single atom. You put 2 million atoms on the head of a needle, you can't see it. You put one of them in your body, sequesters in your muscles, your organs, and your bones. It's pulsing energy every second for the rest of your life. It's destroying your DNA, your chromosomes, your cells, your organs, putting a lesion on your organs. And it does this for the rest of your life, right? And if your body attacks that with white blood cells the entire time. And so that displaces red blood cells carrying oxygen and nutrition in your body. So there's an instant cause and effect, and it's permanent. And as you keep leaking more into your body, that sequesters in your muscles, your organs, your bones. If it's children's bones, it starts mutating their stem cells. You got any idea how much that's going to cost you for the rest of your life? But you don't get to see it till later. And Xcel, like, we never done it. We're leaky. Everything stays on site on a frozen day. They have fuel pools on this site for decades. They're all hemorrhaging radiation into your environment, by the way. You can't contain it. They're nasty people, tell you what. Also worries about whether the radioactive material could hurt wildlife. Of course it can. It's perpetual harm. Generational. It sterilizes the insects and the birds and the mammals and the animals, so over increments over decades you see less and less and less. There never was that many birds. Never was that many beavers. Minnesota is known for our wildlife. And the leaky. And if that tritium, of course, why are you calling this tritium? There is no tritium reservoirs, or they would have announced it. Or say, the tritium came from here. Instead, they say, it was a pipe between the reactor and the turbine. There's tritium got out. We can't fix it. We got to shut off the power plant. Which means it's high pressure. Which means it's contact with the reactor core. Which means it's uranium and plutonium and americium and neptunium and strontium and all the other ugly shit that they make that never goes away and hates me and you. And if that tritium escapes, every time you hear the word tritium, I want to slap somebody with a professor degree. Escape this plant into the Mississippi, that could be damaging. Well, it's frozen on ground. Where do you think it's going to go? They'd be swimming in the parking lot if it doesn't go somewhere. It's not going to absorb into a frozen tundra ground. It's downhill to the Mississippi River is just a few hundred meters away. It gets any snow or rain, that'll help push it into the river. It can't be absorbed into the ground. The ground is already saturated from all the other releases they have. A guy was fishing on the river, was surprised because usually 15 or 20 people would fish that part of the river. He was the only one there. And he wouldn't, when he put the new hook on, he wouldn't hold it with his teeth because he didn't want to get radiation. I doubt if there's actually anybody. But they had a video, so it could be true. He doesn't eat the fish he catches. No longer. Ties his line with his teeth to avoid getting sick. She said in a statement that the leak, that is leaked, did not exceed any agency's limit of leaks from leaking in the leaks. The leak doesn't leak and the 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 leak. Well, the link went out on a date one night and he linked 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 and my fine link. The leak and 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 the leak. So that's exactly how the editor of the media that wrote this, when the journalist asked him how did you want the story to go, he said leak and a 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 leak. Get it out there. Pesky humans. Oh, by the way, did I mention it was leaking and leaked? Opened in 1971. So this is a decrepit building suffering very bad from gamma shines, X-rays, neutron, and beta rays. Well, we know about the Monticello nuclear plant tritium. Oh, this is... So I introduced you to leak. Let me introduce you to the tritium. Right after we check the poll. Should Chris the Leaking Clark, Xcel's energy president, resign over Monticello's nuclear plant leak scandal? Well, I think that's a sign of good faith, isn't it? Anyway, you ready for the tritium? Too bad. Here it comes anyway. Did I mention they had tritium and tritium and tritium and tritium and tritium, 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 and tritium, tritium? Oh, and did I mention the tritium? So you see how the brainwashing works when you start keying in words? Because like the leak and the leak and the leak and the leak, the leak, the leak, the leak, leak, when you just highlight those words, it's pretty obvious what they're doing to the population. It's like, look deep into my eyes, go back to sleep, don't listen to Durnford. Where's Calm Down Charlie to? He usually calls in and interrupts me around this time. Little shih tzu. Well, missing him is like missing hemorrhoids, right? I'd probably jinx myself. He's probably going to call in now. Tritium leak. Tritium. Oh, Mr. Dana. James got me good the other night. I seen the name and it was like James. And then he starts off, hello, Mr. Dana. And just for that second, got me, right? And I was like, wait a second, that's James, bastard. Got me good. It's like, oh, shit. Over 1,000 calls from that guy from the Japanese embassy in Chicago. The leak was leaked and leaked. It was leaking, and it leaked. Did I mention that part? I think that's pretty important, you ask me. Because it leaked and leaked and leaked. And then there was a leak. Did I mention about the other leak that they had that was leaking? At the leaky leak, leaking, leakage, leaking, leaked, leak? They don't make it easy on a guy, I'll give him that much. We're getting there. We got a good bit of it done. Should they be ashamed of themselves for putting the word leak out there that much? I was looking up by accident. I seen this. You know how people name their children these popular names. Apparently, down that area is popular to name their child leaking, or leaked. It's very popular. There was a fight at automotive licensing registration place because two people were trying to get their hands on the license plate leaked. Just random act of violence. You leaked at me! Road rage all over that part of the country. Stress is getting into them down there because they got a leak, Dana. That leaked. And it's going to leak sooner. But it leaked. I swear. Dib, 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 dub, dub, dub. Says Xcel Chris Clark. Now that's not me. It should have been. I'm ashamed that it wasn't. But someone put Clark in there twice. Bless their heart. That actually made my day, you know. Because I didn't have to do it for a change. And I like shit like that, right? Xcel's Chris Clark. What I got to call him from now on? Clark. Because I'm sure that this story has got to wait before it's finished. Has acknowledged criticism. Criticism! You've been there since 71? And you didn't know you're supposed to tell the community? That's pretty convenient. Probably the stupidest excuse I've ever heard, but apparently it worked, right, Clark? Has acknowledged criticism. The company probably should have informed the population instead of saying silence for 4 months about the leak, the original leak. The leaked, and leak is leaking, leaked, leaking. It leaked. I'll be sleeping, I'll be waking up, it leaked, it was leaking. I'll be like, oh God, I'm having nightmares now about the leak from Clark. Thanks, Clark. You're not making my life any better. 400,000 gallons, which is 3,700 gallons a day. It's apparently just a leak. Because they have a lot of leaks, so that was leaking and leaked and leaked. God, please let this end. That leaked. The leak was leaking and leaked and leaked. And leaked 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 and leaked. Please tell me this is the last story. Oh, tritium. No, not tritium. We already done the leak too. Oh, there's more. I apologize, everybody. The leak was leaking. It leaked in November. It's a radioactive leak. The new leak is leaking, leaked, and leaked, and everybody was leaking. Dun, 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 dun. Everybody was Kong leaking, fighting. Dun, 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 dun. The leak of radioactive water was fast as lightning. Dun, 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 dun. From the Monticello, I finally cracked. I apologize. You got to realize I had to put this all together, and so before I went live, I was like, I'm leaking today. I might never read another one of these stories after tonight. I'll be picking up the phone and say, hello, leaky, leak. I mean, hello? The leak of the radioactive water from Leaky, Monticello's leak, nuclear generating plant, a.k.a. nuclear power plant. The leaked Minnesota Dakota President Chris Clark says the water spilled out of the catch system under the plant, Dana. Okay? Shows a picture, Pinhead, that since added more monitoring wells. So shut up, fear-mongering. Dana's mom, Dana's fear-mongering. To be able to monitor and make sure that we're controlling that plume. These guys are awesome, eh? I mean, I wouldn't hang out with them or something like that, but if you're going to put a bunch of scumbags together, they're pretty tight, man. They got all the tight bases covered. It's not migrating down river a couple of 100 meters to the river, because when the ground freezes in Minnesota, it's different than everywhere else. And we've actually been successful pumping the water with the tritium. Every time I hear the word tritium, I want to go kick a nuclear scientist up in the earth. Back up, and that's helped keeping it from moving towards the river. I swear. And my son, Leak. Clark says he'll use a slow and steady method to keep pumping the water up from wells on the site. It can't get down into the earth. It's frozen. But that's the story. They're sticking to it. They're committed to it. Now, they can't change. You can't change. Just randomly change. Leak. You should have built an ice wall around the leak. Apparently that's what they done. It's underneath it, and it runs out into the hard cases. Xcel Energy to address nuclear. Xcel. Clark, right? Chris Clark. Nuclear plant leaks at public meeting in Monticello Monday night. They planned all this out before they come out and announced they had a leak at the leak. Right? Everything was put together, and then they'll just go through the motions for a couple of weeks till you get stupid and you get frustrated, and everything else just leaves them alone. Victoria Myers, one of the first non-regulatory agencies puppets that showed up, said it was like walking in the sunshine. I was like, oh shit, they had a major event in Clark land. The first leak leaked, and the second leak was leaking, and we all leaked together, and everybody was happy in the end, Dana. Leaking, leaks, and leaks, and leaking. It was leaking, looking, locking, leaking. That's like a new language. Maybe that's the language. Maybe I broke a code. I could have been. You don't know. You don't know. You can't prove me wrong. I might start drinking after tonight. Haven't drank in 30 years. I might try tonight. I'm worried though. I might get a leak. Oh, we are close to the end of that part. Thank God. Tell me it's all over. Oh, it is. Okay, so now it's just a bunch of pictures. We move on to other nuclear news. Like, when I put it all together, I was like, this is ridiculous. I found the stories from the last 24 hours, and I opened them all up, and then I started reading them, because that's what I do. Originally, I have to read all the stories and find out what they're up to, and then tell that story, right? And so all you gotta do is highlight, read between the lines, so to speak, and then you can figure what's the cover story, what are they trying to convey? Because the gibberish is well structured, right? They're very educated people. They got incredible education to lie to you, so they come out and lie to you. Well, I got an education. Why would I lie? I could lose my degree, boy. I wouldn't lie to you. No, you wouldn't. Vampires. Leak. Oh, my God. No, not again. No, this is just pictures. That might be the end of it, hopefully. It's like a trigger for me now. Every time I see the word leak, I'm like, oh, shit. No, I got to read that. Oh. I'm sure we have more leaky news tomorrow night. Leak concerns. They never get tired of the word, eh? Because they don't want you to think of flow. They don't want you to think of big amounts. They want you to think of, they're talking about wells, usually indicate a small amount, eh? And as if the wells, drilling wells on a frozen site, total scam, right? You can see through it clear as day. Leak concerns at Nuke plant, disease factories. Their fuel pools are hemorrhaging about 120,000 liters into your ear every day, by the way. It's evaporated. From the fuel pools, they're still splitting the atoms, so each liter is billions of anthropogenic man-made atoms. These cause heart problems, liver problems, lung problems, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid, adrenaline, Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, diabetes, Down syndrome. The list goes. There's 1,800 diseases and illnesses, and autoimmune deficiencies and injuries. Tritium's the last thing you're worried about. You can't find the tritium in that water because the signals from the plutonium, uranium will deafen it, right? The fact they're telling you tritium is pack up and move as quick as you can. Minnesota water treatment. You think I'm kidding? Give you a head shake. Minneapolis Water Treatment and Distribution Services is where the Xcel Energy Monticello power plant tritium leak and is partnering with the biggest lawyers in the industry that got their six. The deals are crazy. Tritium. Did I mention they had a tritium leak? Pretty disgusting, isn't it? It's the only industry I see where they do this. All of them do it. It's like this group of we hate all species type creatures. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that snow and ice? Isn't this a blizzard? Doesn't that move that water down river a couple of 100 meters? Leak was leaking. He's half drunk by the looks of it, what? So the president himself is there explaining it to everybody. So this is 100% cover-up, see? He can't trust anybody to tell the lie that fits the narrative for them, right? So he instead of hiring somebody to go there and do it, why do that? If you're really truly a scumbag, you do it yourself, right? It's unheard of. It's unprecedented for the president of the energy company to show up and do a meet and greet, shake hands, and tells everybody's like a banana and a potato chip, and walking in the sunshine, and flying on an airplane, and climbing mountains, and all the other lies that they're going to tell. I just don't understand it. They actually went to university to get a degree to get that particular job. Well, their family worked in it, see? Generations of scumbag and inbreeding. The fact he's there himself, I've never seen that before. So it's a bad leak that's leaking in the leak. From Clark. Chris Clark, they got his name spelled wrong. It's Chris Clark. Journalist said so. I seen it earlier. Journalists wouldn't lie to me. I wouldn't turn me back on one, of course, but he wouldn't lie to me. Imagine being in an elevator and the guy behind you, a girl behind you says they're a journalist. You'd be like, oh shit. Oh shit, I knew I should have carried a fucking bat with me today. Protect myself. Skinhead mouthpiece. No, he's tritium, and then he's leaked and leaked. And did I mention that it was leaking and leaked, and then it leaked and leaked and leaked? The tritium leaked. Tritium. It was leaking. That's right, the leak from tritium, said the suit with the head on it. I'd eat your children's brains, but I couldn't get a job doing it. Okay, I apologize to everybody who's probably leaking at this stage of it. That was quite a lot. So the leak must be pretty serious for them to put in all of that in 24 hours. Bastards. 38 minutes. Tell that story. And I didn't cover the paragraphs, I only covered leak. It's not brainwashing at all. That's the furthest thing I've ever seen from brainwashing, Dana. Bastards, boy. Minnesota must be susceptible to brainwashing by the looks of it. I bet you if I start up a t-shirt, there's a leak, that'll sell like hotcakes for the next couple of weeks. People won't be able to resist it, right? Oh my God, that shirt's perfect! I need it! Scumbag France. What was that? Water scarcity jeopardizing the French nuclear fleet. Oh, let's wind that back. Water scarcity jeopardizing senior citizens. 70% of the water in France goes to the nuclear industry. And they can't shut them all down, so frig all the fish, all the species. They'll just keep running them, right? That's what they done last summer. They got a special waiver to fry the rivers and the streams and the lakes. The water they're using is coming from the glaciers. There's no more glaciers, just snowpack. You know what that means? They're going to run out of water. No matter how much snow they had in the winter, that's going to just disappear like crazy come spring in the Alps down there. And by the way, the Alps, we've seen studies from France's Alps of huge radiation numbers, huge hot zones from Chernobyl that were stuck in the glaciers. And now the glaciers are melting. These pulses are released into the environment. I used to always think that was a photoshopped a picture. Let me bring that up. Why you guys be so complicated all the time? So complicated. Why are you so complicated? Oh, goodness me. Oh, hang on. Oh, You screwed that up, Dana. Could you screw that up anymore? I'm trying. Yeah, that's a kid on a cooling tower for a nuclear plant. I always used to think that was fake, eh? That's despicable. Leave it up to the nuclear industry, right? And he probably done it just to get that particular picture. Can't take him anywhere. Let me see if I can get this straight. There's two of you. Wow. Yep. Bye-bye. A report released by the French Court of Auditors highlighted the issue regarding safety operations of nuclear power plants. I'm trying to decompress from all the leaking there earlier. Because of the increasing unstable supplies. Not my fault. You would have cracked up too if you were sat here and had to read all of that. I know it, man. I know, right? I got a leaky mind. I know leaky stuff. Drought and low water levels caused some plants to be turned off temporarily. But then he said, fuck it, and turned it back on. Killed all the fish. The auditors warned 56 existing disease factories, also known as nuclear power plants, as well as the planned ones, must be analyzed. Analyzed. The river, or that river that these nuclear power plants is on is fed by the glaciers. Last year, there was just small streams out in the middle of the river. There was no way to turn the plant on, and no way to keep the reactor fuel in the pools cool without importing water. You need 120,000 liters a day. And the fleet consists of 56 reactors, 18 plants across the country. 30 of them were off at the peak last year. It'll be worse this year. Last year was basically, the year before, rather, was the beginning of the major droughts because of Fukushima. Killed the biota in the forest and the fungus and the bacteria. And so it doesn't soak up water anymore, and it doesn't break down the foliage. And so they don't soak up the water. And because of the heat, now it becomes intense. It radiates heat. And if you go up to the ants' nest and stuff like that, you can tear them open with your hands. You'll find them, but they're gone extinct. There was no fungus and bacteria. They can't live without it, right? That's why they build it amongst all the roots. Because they're dependent upon, all roots of all species are dependent upon fungus and bacteria. And without it, you can't have the environment for the biota to break down the foliage and the litter from the forest. And so when you get lightning strikes, then you have these huge pieces floating up that normally would have been broken down. And so you get these multiple fires far apart from each other starting up, and you overwhelm any kind of response, like the aircraft or helicopters or boots on the ground. Over the past several years, France has been hit by severe droughts. We all are. It's the Fukushima effect, right? We see it all the time for the last 36, 37 years in Chernobyl, for instance. It's well recorded, right? And then those forest fires, they liberate the radiation that's bioaccumulated in the plants and the foliage and everything. Gotta watch it. Bear with me. Bear with me. I'll get there. That's what I'm looking for. Let's go back and check the poll. You gotta be so hard, Dana. Can't seem to get anything to work. Here we go. Gotta try not to touch any buttons here. Get myself in trouble. Should Chris Leaky Clark, Xcel's energy president, resign over Monticello nuclear plant leak scandal? That was a scandal. that was scandalous. Let's try this. So France's Nuclear Safety Agency allows a temperature limit to exceed for reactors to continue generating. So bye-bye to all the species in the river. And these are the genetic superior species, right? That took millions of years to reach dominance in these ecosystems. And so when you're going to have these huge blowout events by heating everything up, basically assassinating all the species, right? These are gangsters, these are outlaws, these are bandits, these people in the nuclear industry. They're just common criminals, and there's no checks and balances. Congress and parliaments worldwide don't have the authority to make it illegal to poison you with anthropogenic man-made radiation. Okay, all right. I'm only telling you 500 more times, so don't worry about it. You'll pick it up. Let me see if I can find that, because that's important, I think. You definitely need to change that law before you can have a future. The fox went out on leak one night, and he leaked and leaked and leaked and leaked, and it must be a mighty fine fox. So, must be a mighty fine fox. So even after it does the presentation, I'll be walking around singing that. It'll be stuck in my head. I'll have to pick up the guitar after, put some chords to it, so I can get it out of my head. So that you should know. Because Congress lacks the authority to criminalize poisoning with radioactive substances. So this was a protester, ex-candidate, who pleaded guilty to seeking polonium-210, which is a controlled substance, but wouldn't get prison under the deal because they didn't want to set a precedent, basically, because he would have won in court, right? And he would have won in court, the lawyer says, because they filed a series of motions to dismiss the indictment against him, asserting that the nuclear terrorism charge under which he was charged is unconstitutional. Because Congress lacks the authority to criminalize poisoning with radioactive substances. And that people with that authority is the appointed Nuclear Regulatory Commission, also known as the Rubber Stamp Commission, or the Non-Regulatory Agency. And the Captured Nuclear Agency is another alias that they're guilty of. So Congress lacks the authority for them to poison, to make it illegal for them to poison you. What do you think they're going to do? This is why they're not worried, right? Oh, Danny boy, the lights are drumming. Oh, Danny boy, where are you to? Ah, I got rid of the sound, did I? Hang on. It gives me some comfort when I hear it, eh? I can almost like meditate when I'm listening to it. I was getting the show ready, and this was playing in the background for probably 40 minutes. I lost now. I don't know where I'm supposed to be. Well, the monster went out on a date one night. Oh yeah, that's what we've done. So Congress lacks the authority to criminalize poisoning you with radioactive material. And because that motion was filed, and they got him to plead so he wouldn't win the case, and then terrorists like Clark could use this to get off. Well, it's not illegal. Ha ha ha. Too bad. Gotcha. It's not illegal to be a scumbag. They cover all the bases. You got to give them credit. Oh yeah, EDF. Let's keep going. This next story. Putin says Russia will station tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus, right alongside of Poland, where NATO has their nuclear weapons stored. This is outrageous to put nuclear weapons by our nuclear weapons, which are by their nuclear weapons. Bastards. They checkmated us. Yeah, they got a warrant out for him. Putin's laughing his arse off. The whole story is crazy, right? Because if you look at Vladimir Putin, he hung out with Justin Trudeau and Angela Merkel when they were young at the World Economic Forum. They were young global leaders. Guess who they are now? Old global leaders. Do you really think that's a coincidence? Do you think the artificial inflation since February last year is a coincidence? Come on. Putin says Russia will station tactical nuclear weapons right next to NATO. Russia falsely claims the rounds have nuclear components. We covered that last night. The United Kingdom depleted uranium munitions. And they're saying they're not nuclear bombs, so they're okay. They're maniacs, eh? They done a whole long press conference on it, too. No, it's not dirty bombs like Dana's saying. Don't listen to Dana, he's crazy. We're the White House, we wouldn't lie to you. We got 29,000 public relation firms at the Pentagon, so nobody tells lies, right? La 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 la. Let's keep her going. Ramping up the nukes. Oh, they're going to turn Wyoming into a big target. They're going to put a great big target on Wyoming. They're going to move hundreds of intercontinental missiles because Congress don't have their bunkers in Wyoming, right? Because, why would you tell the world, hey, we're putting them right here. You want the GPS? Because I can give it to you if you like. Come on down, we'll give you tours. So that's called a sucker. So what happens is if they get into a shooting war with the commies, the Ruskies even, then they're going to blow up Wyoming. That's the target, right? Because it's just a big game. You can't win, otherwise the weapons manufacturer is going to go out of business. There's always got to be a conflict. Let me explain it to you. I got conflicts. My voice could use a break for 40 seconds. Let me play this short clip that helps you get the big picture. You like pictures? I like pictures. Yes, boy. They're good. Pictures good, Dana. Meet Patrick Clausen from the Washington Institute, I believe. Yes. It's a think tank. It's a war think tank. And so he starts off with, I don't see how this president, which I think was Obama at that time, can get us to war with Iran. So at the end of it he says, so I think it's best if somebody else starts the war. Because you can't see how the president's going to start a war. Declare war, right? And so this the Washington Institute, these are lowlifes. I've been following them for years. They're on YouTube, right? They're real bold, eh? Anyway, here's Patrick Clausen. I put pictures in there to help you comprehend. This is a fascinating clip. Here we go.
I frankly think that crisis initiation is really tough. And it's very hard for me to see how the United States president can get us to war with Iran. Some people might think Mr. Wilson wanted to get us into World War I. You may recall he had to wait for the Lusitania episode. Some people might think that Mr. Johnson wanted to send troops to Vietnam. You may recall he had to wait for the Gulf of Tonkin episode. We didn't go to war with Spain until the until the Maine exploded. And may I point out that Mr. Lincoln did not feel he could call out the Federal Army until Fort Sumter was attacked, which is why he ordered the commander at Fort Sumter to do exactly that thing which the South Carolinians had said would cause an attack. Some people might think that Mr. Roosevelt wanted to get us into World War II, as David mentioned. You may recall we had to wait for Pearl Harbor. So if, in fact, the Iranians aren't going to compromise, it would be best if somebody else started the war.
Makes sense to me. So, like, when I was listening, they put that up on their YouTube channel. I was probably the first 6 or 7 people to hear it. Usually there's never more than 10 or 15 listen to those videos, right? And usually one of them, 2 of them, are going to be the sound guy who originally done the video. But anyway, when I heard him say that, I was like, holy shit. Wow, that I'll use that for the rest of my life to beat the shit out of that industry. And I did, right?
I frankly think that crisis initiation is really tough.
Tough, eh? You want to go?
And it's very hard for me to see how the United States...
I'm scared of you chicken necks. These are war hogs. What do you call them? The warmongers. Yeah, warmongers. They went to university, got an education to get that job, to promote war so they can get kickbacks from the weapons producers. Because the weapon producers, they kick back. If you want to buy a Rolls Royce, you got to go down to these events, because that's when they advertise the Rolls Royces. They're only for certain types of people. U.S. Air Force. Some of their planes, like the Doomsday planes they fly, in 24 hours they use the same amount of gas as 1.4 million cars or something would use. Because they have to fuel them the whole time, right? And they're carrying nuclear weapons. They're flying high altitudes. They're very inefficient. And so they burn the equivalent, and these planes are up to 24 hours a day all year long for decades in the upper atmosphere, and they're not efficient, so the releases are brutal. Industry is disgusting, eh? It just doesn't care about anything under their paycheck. Everything else it's a predatory industry, right? Everything is a target. Nothing is sacred. And all there's 450 Minuteman III missiles located in underground bunkers across multiple states. So back to that story, I'm going to put 100 new generation intercontinental missiles right here. It's going to be right there. We'll tell you, we'll give you GPS, so make sure you bomb that spot, please. So the rest of us can cash your checks on Fridays. New grants will fund the study of sitting. That makes sense. Supply chains for small nuclear reactors. So, like, small nuclear reactors are megawatt, less than 100 megawatts. Well, there's less than that. They're less than 10, 15 megawatts. So just well to build geothermal. So you can have 5 times the power for half the price. Because it's geothermal. And it never runs out. You don't have to bring in fuel, or you don't have to worry about waste. It's geothermal. It's everywhere. Why would you use reactors? Why would you talk about grants for reactors that don't exist and won't exist? But all the infrastructure is being built, but that's just a robbery, see? That's the parasitic industry itself. It's like all those weapons manufacturers set up shop in Australia, and now they got to spend $250 billion US dollars for submarines they got no use for, because they need a high income to justify the shareholders, because they'll kill everything on the planet for the shareholders. And this corporate personhood, this protection that they have, corporate personhood is where a corporation had piggybacked laws that were put on the books for slaves. And so the corporation doesn't have all of those rights, but they have enough so that you can't hold them accountable. So there's no incentive not to be evil. When a typical company charter was that if you were criminal and you polluted the community and everything else, you could be arrested. Your business could be liquidated to pay off outstanding debts and supply chains, and the money left over was used reparation for the damages you caused. And you can be put in jail. So there was accountability. There was an incentive not to be a scumbag. The nuclear industry doesn't have that incentive. And one of the Supreme Court justices, Chief Justice Hugo Black, wrote an eloquent dissent in the 30s of how absurd it was that a law meant to free slaves from an oppressive government was used by corporations to oppress a solvent people. You're a solvent person. You're a person. And we're all equal. Nobody's any better than anybody else. We all have the exact same rights. And if we stuck to that, we would have a fair society, right? But the minute you gave corporation human rights, you open up the gates then for the lobbying machine. So imagine 7,500 lobbyists calling you all day long, texting you, coming up at your office, showing up at your workplace, showing up when you get out of your car in the morning, everywhere. 7,500 of them trying to get you with a suitcase of money to vote yes. How many people can withstand that kind of an assault? Because that's how, which is illegal if you took away the legal human rights that these corporations. So they can't go to jail, they can only get a fine, but they put their money in offshore accounts so they're not paying taxes. Right? Because that's how that structure works, which is totally illegal. So they're not contributing to state, federal, local taxes. And then if they get a fine, they take some of the money that they were supposed to spend anyway on taxes as a kickback, basically. Again, there's no incentive because they can't get a criminal record for the crimes that they're committing, and there's no incentive because they're not accountable. It's very extreme for them to be held accountable. They had to rip off everybody else. That's the only way, all the criminals, and then they would get held accountable. 2 grants totaling $150,000 awarded to Linnos Wisco, who knows what that is, Planning District Commission for the site supply chains for small nuclear reactor for Southwest. Oh, this is, what's that scumbag senator? What's his name? Oh, Youngkin. He's the nuclear industry got him hook, line, and sinker. And so, they said they wanted to, because it was, there was a law you couldn't have any new reactors in Virginia, and he got the law changed so you can have a commonization, which makes no sense, because there's 25 states in America that don't have any laws banning nuclear power, and they don't have nuclear power, and they're anti-nuclear. And if they're smart, you're really anti-nuclear, very strong anti-nuclear. Restarted damaged Swedish nuclear reactor delayed again. The nuclear industry, wherever it shows up, it's the people in it. They don't have anybody in it with a personality. Right? They're all scared of each other. They're all afraid to turn their back on each other. Let's keep going. I don't want to get too excited after all the leaks we had earlier. Kind of took all the... Oh, shit, not again. Nuclear plant shuts down after second leak. Bastard snuck one in on us. Sorry about that, folks. Trigger. Scottish government nuclear stance is short-sighted and unambitious. And this Sawa. So the guy in the center is a politician, apparently. And he showed up and said, I like nuclear, good. Dana bad. Dana's bad. Dana's bad. I'm going to fix that. I changed the cords today because we were having problems yesterday. Just before we went live, I was like, oh shit, I got to change that cord for the microphone. Because you had to tap. I got so much equipment, it's hard to wrap your mind around. And you're afraid to tap on anything? It costs you thousands of bucks. The Scottish government, but it worked accidentally. The Scottish government's attitude toward nuclear power has been condemned. It's short-sighted, damn it. Well, if they don't want nuclear, then throwing a hissy fit doesn't mean you're going to get nuclear. They don't need nuclear. That's why they don't got it. And they're not. They already got the UK's nuclear subs there hemorrhaging into the community, into the harbour, that are basically abandoned for decades. Labour Scottish leader insisted nuclear energy had to be seen as part of the mix and said his party is supported of it. So there, the long track record of nuclear industry expertise. It's just not a spot you want to be raising kids in then. Through the operation of Donneray, which is going to be 315 years, they say. Who's going to be around to make sure that was true in 315 years? Through the operation of Donneray site, which is undergoing decommissioning. They dug big holes and dumped their highly radioactive stuff down in the hole. It's just like something you would expect from a teenager that was trying to hide something from their parents or something. Dig a hole and throw it down in the hole. Why did they do something so idiotic and stupid? Because it's nuclear, Dana. Oh, that makes sense. It's UK's Labour position to support nuclear. So shut up, fear-mongering. But it's Scottish Labour's position to support nuclear. But it's also Scottish to support nuclear. It has to be part of the mix to give us a stable baseline. We can build upon with renewable energies. But renewable will exceed all current gas, oil, coal, and nuclear plants combined by 2026. And it's just starting. The technology is strong, but that massive move, right? 331 nuclear plants worth of renewables came online last year, 2021. So 2022 numbers should be out soon. How do you decontaminate objects exposed to radioactivity? Well, the USS Ronald Reagan, they put it up on dry dock 4 times, and they grinded the decks and everything else 4 different times. Still couldn't get rid of the radiation. It infests everything. See, it goes everywhere, and it pulses energy every second. It's kind of like take a screwdriver and you hook it up to a car battery, you magnetize it, and then you can't switch that off, right? So radioactive fallout is the same thing, except it's really harmful. It's pulsing actual energy up to long distances. So it radiates everything around it in increments. It's a perpetual machine. Radioactive fallout is perpetual. Wherever it is, it's pulsing energy every second. And lots of it's airborne, particularly because of the major pulse release from Fukushima event. The whole industry is just really fixed to stop leak at Xcel's nuclear plant in Minnesota did not work, prompting a shutdown. Hey, the only reason shutting it down is because it's very high pressure, right? I never really told the story. Night, all I said was leak, 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 leak. I went through all the stories and I highlighted the word leak, leaking, and leaked. And took 38 minutes to tell the story of the leak. This is an outrageous story, by the way. Savannah Riverside builds an electric vehicle fleet. They're putting these charging stations in the administration parking lot. Guess who's getting electric vehicles? And they're going to have 1,000 vehicles at the Savannah Riverside. They're electric. So imagine what kind of disease factory that site is. It needs 1,000 vehicles. Think about it, eh? Pentagon presses Congress for a yes on the $842 billion budget. Give or take a couple of $100 billion. So there's no money left over for children and schools and hospitals and infrastructure. Because the military just steals it as quick as you gain it. Well, it doesn't even matter. They prefer to keep you in the hole. With the artificial inflation, the self-inflicted inflation in 195 UN countries, the Pentagon is feeling the squeeze too. Yeah, well, we need lots of nuclear weapons and bombs. Bombs! We got to give lots of bombs to Ukraine, for God's sakes. Dana, we're the military. That's what we do. We rape, we kill, we bomb, we destroy. We don't count bodies. We kill, we move on. We killed some more, then we retired as patriotic heroes for raping and killing and destroying everything. The forgotten nuclear bomber. Meet the... How many suicide bombers does it take to equal a aircraft carrier? How many suicide bombers does it take to equal an Abrams tank? 155 millimeter rounds with a 900-foot kill ratio. I wonder. That's what they are. They're suicide bombers. India had a gas guzzler nuke bomber. They don't need them anymore. They got the ballistic missiles now, right? And submarines. They just want it for the cool factor. Because in India, there was big protests. We covered it a few weeks ago because people were like, we can't eat nuclear, so stop building this shit and spend money on people and children and everything. Like, no, it all got to go to the military and the nuclear industry. Because that's the Constitution now. Piketon nuke site, school closures, renew radiation fears in southern Ontario. Well, this was right close. This is hexafluoride, uranium hexafluoride, raw uranium, processed uranium. Not that far from the school, see? Concern over school board members began keeping a private tally of all the kids diagnosed with cancer before the school district closed over concerns about radioactive contamination. 2 recovered, 2 more died. The 5th child, the cause of his grim tally, was his very own 16-year-old daughter, Caitlin. She died about a week before she would have turned 16, cancer of the soft tissue. The Pike Country grapples with the feared cleanup of former uranium enrichment operation in the community is contaminated nearby air, water. Many are making similar accounts of loved ones dealing with everything from cancer to debilitating skin conditions. 1,800 diseases and illnesses, autoimmune deficiencies, injuries that you have to worry about. And in a country of 28,000, sickness was prolific. Right, so that's what you expect. Heart, liver, lung, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid. Your thyroid glands getting radioactive means you're producing radioactive hormones. And that's a whole friggin' world of just misery right there. On May the 13th, closure of the middle school enrollment, a little more than 300, spurred a creeping fear that children's health problems were not just an unwelcome twist of fate. If you have half a thyroid here, you're doing good, said one of the locals. If you have half a thyroid, you're doing good. That sounds about right when it comes to a nuclear community that's dominated by nuclear scum, right? They're vicious scum. That's one thing we see constantly. You never get used to it. Davis Lee, who grew up less than a mile from the nuclear disease factory, had a cranial tumor on his brain that he had to remove. And her mother, who worked in the plant, was diagnosed with eyeball cancer that metastasized and eventually killed her. Because radiation get in through your eyes, right? For many years, many assume illnesses were largely due to those who worked at the plant. But eventually, everybody got sick. Because you can't contain it, right? The cancer rate in 2019 was the second highest in Ohio. And the authorities like, no, there's no radiation here. Fear-mongering. It was just a leak. 479 people filled out an online cancer cluster study form, added 150 names from a community, total of 600 responses have cancers and negative health effects or live near or connected to the plant. It's an alarming number for a community of that size. Cancer, there's 1,800 diseases, not just cancer. And we see this all the time where they only acknowledge cancer. Cancer, 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 cancer. Leak, leak, leak. Tritium, tritium, tritium. Cancer, cancer, cancer. Cancer, cancer, cancer. You know the cause of a fair number of things, but the cause of cancer is usually unknown. Got nothing to do with the endless nuclear war they had for decades called nuclear testing, which is a nuclear war. It's the same bombs, the same radioactive fallout. Oh no, it's just total research. So most of the research done to gauge the impact of radiation conducted on the 120,000 survivors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombing. So the mathematics they're using is the results from the 60 or 72-year study on Hiroshima and Nagasaki victims. Really. Jerry Thomas is from United Kingdom, Dr. Mass Genocide Machine, Jerry Thomas. She controls the cancer studies for that. She's a perpetual lawyer for the industry, right? She goes up and does lectures all over the world to manipulate the population. It's really something to watch. Well, not really. It's revolting. Let me play a little clip of her. I got a couple of flattering clips, I think, I can find. Bear with me. I'm kind of new at this stuff. Oh, what's this? This might be one here. Let's try this. Oh, God, what is that? Mommy,
so,
that
for
lady
example,
scares
coming
me.
here, I would have got a dose of 0.07 millisieverts on the flight.
Oh, my God.
And I actually went round Fukushima Daiichi on Wednesday, and the dose that I had going around the site, so very close to where the reactors are, it was 0.01 and probably lower, but that's the lowest it could actually read. So I got more of a dose flying here, and we'll get a dose tomorrow when I fly home, than I would have done from being in Fukushima.
That is some fucking scary shit right there, man. Imagine meeting her in a dark alley in a cold, wet night. Onward, upward. The Department of Energy repeatedly assured the community the levels are safe. Safe. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Nobody wants to breed plutonium. She wished the Department of Energy had notified the school when the contamination was noticed rather than a couple of years later. Well, that's how it works, though. They got to get all their public relation firms set up before they tell you. And then they tell you, then they roll out the public relation firms, and oh no, it's like a banana. All the stories are pre-packaged, ready to go, written by the industry, and pawned off by the local medias. That's how they get their kickbacks, right? It's quite simple, really, when you look at it, how they're done. It's evil by nature now. It doesn't even know how to shut off. They're like, no, it'd be like Dave on the year 2000 or whatever, the computer. No, Dave. Food from Fukushima overcoming reputational damage in Taiwan. I put that story in just for badness. We covered that last week, or recently anyway. The food from Taiwan overcoming reputational damage in Taiwan. The irony of this was Taiwan didn't know what to do with its nuclear waste. And so it didn't like the natives, who they put on an island called Orchard Island a long time ago. And so they were like, well, let's go out to the island where the natives are to and tell them we're going to open a canning factory and we'll put our nuclear dump there. They were like, high five. And so that's what they done. And they built this canning factory that was a nuclear dump. So no, we're going to build a canning factory for tuna and salmon. It's going to be wonderful. Oh, we'll give you little kickbacks to everybody in the community, little dividends. As an act of appreciation. And you put a nuclear dump there, and natives have been fighting for decades to get it out of there and get it closed. No, you signed the paper. We're Taiwan. We go people. Nuclear industry in Taiwan is scum. Finally, a decent story. What's the odds? I put that in there just so I can switch gears. Because I notice sometimes I'll get more stressed out as I'm going through all the stuff. I start getting like bastards. Start saying things that could probably get me into trouble. But that's the price to pay of a nuclear activist. This award-winning apartment heat pump can fit under a kitchen sink. He's got a medal to prove it on his neck. I just kid you. It's a 6 kilowatt heat pump, is modular, so it's easy to install service. Weighs about 66 pounds. The one that fits, there's two parts to it. The pre-plumbed indoor water tank works off it, and that's 95 pounds, 209 pounds, and can hold 38 gallons. So plenty of water. Excess heat and cold is harvested along the circuit and the energy is recycled to the grid. It's known as fifth generation district heating and saves around 80% of energy compared to gas and heating. So that device can save you 80% of your home heating. And so China will have a version out there that'll be 90% and it'll be half the price in about 3 days. And so you can look that up if you're interested in it, because I think that's fantastic, right? All electric building draws energy from 500 feet below the surface of the earth. Oh my God, what is it? What could that be? Is it that an alien? That could be an alien. I don't like aliens. They might have a leak. They're going to use it to heat a 834 unit apartment tower in Brooklyn waterfront. It'll have 322 holes, each 4 inches across. And exactly, no longer, not even a little tiny bit, nothing. It can only be exactly. And exactly now is kind of like that leak I showed you earlier. It's everywhere. It's exactly 499 feet. So any deeper, New York State considers it a mining project. But guess where you're going to get the most heat is a couple of 100 feet deeper. Can't do it. That's a mining. The nuclear industry said we shouldn't let anybody do it because it's considered mining. It's a direct threat to the nuclear industry. So 322 holes, 4 inches across. That's doable. But that's good. We're talking about 832 homes. I'm sorry, Dana's not Dana's 834. And the hallways, Dana. Okay, you're right, I'm wrong. That's the alternate Dana, by the way. Any deeper, New York could call it a mining project. Can't they make an exception? No, that's a mining. No, it's holes in the grounds to heat. Sorry. No, we can't change the law. New York, boy. Mind you, if you slipped them $20, they'd probably change the law. They're that corrupt. The holes comprise the heart of the geothermal. Oh my God, geothermal is going to heat up all those buildings and it's only going to take up that little tiny space. That's outrageous. They should ban that everywhere. That's shocking. How's nuclear ever going to compete with something like that? I apologize. I kind of get like that. All that leak today, that really got to me, eh? I was really upset about it. I'm like, oh, them dirty bastards, they're getting it tonight, man. They don't know what's coming. They won't see this. Spending on residential heat pump systems climbed 9.6% last year to $64 billion worldwide. So it's real, baby. It's rocking. It's happening as we speak. Clean geothermal energy, cost competitive. Co-founder of the geothermal Quatsi Energy stated, clean geothermal energy that is stored beneath our feet is 1 billion times greater than the annual energy needs for the entire planet. And the only trick is, how do you drill down deep enough to tap into it no matter where you to? Well, we have the technology to do it now. And it's kind of like it just evaporates the rocks. And so there's many itinerations of it. If the university try working on it for a couple of hours, they come up with better solutions probably, right? No. They haven't got time. They're too busy working on fusion and small modular reactors to solve that riddle, Dana. When they get to small modular reactors and they dominate the planet, we'll get to it, Dana. We like the idea, but not right now. It's too competitive. That's what Ontario said. Wait, now we're going to spend $26 billion on our reactors in Ontario, and there's 700 wind and solar farms there that are going to put us out of business. Well, let's stop giving them money. That's what they done last year. Threw them all under the bus. All 700 renewable energy projects that were multi-million-dollar operations each. They were like, no, we're not taking your... First he said, well, you can't turn your windmills on in the daytime because we're afraid birds will fly into it. So you can only turn it on at nighttime. Geothermal startup, Quatsi Energy. I like it. Finally, we're getting somewhere with common sense. Geothermal development incentives are on the governor's desk, and they're about 1 billionth of what they're going to throw at the nuclear industry. But at least it's something. At least you threw the dog a bone, right? Academic paper on cancer riddled with fabrication. Holy shit, no way. That's incredible. I'd never seen that coming. That was amazing. Hang on. I think I saw a pudding cat. What's the odds I would find that tonight? Hacking the scientific publication process. They even got studies on how to hack it. You know, there was a fake study accepted about Star Wars figure. He only grew eyebrows on his left side, apparently. Journals got dubbed into publishing a fake Star Wars study. I think it was 14 or 16 journals aggressively approached me about publishing. The only problem was there was paywalls. And you know, you can't really trust them anymore because, say, Elsevier, Springer, and Wiley has 22,000 of the biggest journals, just those three organizations. They get all your academic studies for free. They put it behind a paywall, and the parents of the students who produce the study on their taxpayers' money has to pay to read the study that their children produced. So nobody bothers looking at it, right? So they keep just republishing the same studies over and over and over because they don't know the other ones exist because they're all behind paywalls. There's 4.3 million studies published every year paid for by the taxpayers. You don't have access to it because you're the taxpayer, because you're paying for it. Journals got dubbed into publishing a fake Star Wars. Well, how hard was it? Well, it wasn't. They had a big rubber stamp there. Next. Information overload fuels fake news study. A new record. A major publisher retracted more than 100 studies from cancer journals over fake peer reviews. Wow, that's similar to a story I was looking at earlier that came out yesterday. Academic paper on cancer is riddled with fake studies. Where was I? Phony peer review. The more we look, the more you find. Fake peer review hits RSC journals. No, this is the norm. This is how it actually works, isn't it? I thought this was normal. Paging Dr. Fraud, the fake publishers that are ruining science. They're called scientists and academics. That's the people that are doing it. China cracks down on fake peer reviews. You know, it's pretty bad when China's cracking down, man. Next. Oh, autism rates are on the rise. That's a gallows laugh, right? That's a horror story. That's why I'm telling the story. They're not on the rise. They're gone insane. Which is what you expect to see after a major nuclear accident. So, autism. So, heart problems, liver, lung, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid, adrenaline, Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, Down syndrome, schizophrenia, diabetes. So, dementia, autism, schizophrenia, diabetes, Down syndrome. Oh, sorry. Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, Down syndrome, and schizophrenia. Those 5 are severe mental illnesses, right? So most of the species won't survive that, but the human species do because we take care of the children, right? The victims. Not all the time, because if you look at what Belarus and Ukraine done with the orphanages, endless orphanages they got over there from the children abandoned because of Chernobyl that are disfigured and unwanted. But autism rates are on the rise. 1 in every 36 children in the U.S. was diagnosed with autism. How many slipped under the radar? How many don't have health care? Which is what we expected. And these are catastrophic numbers. In 2000, it was 1 in 150. Now it's 1 in 36. Nothing going on here. La la la. Nuclear is carbon-free, Dana. Did I mention we got a poll? Oh, goodness. That's where the word leak is to. I'm sorry about that, folks. Should Chris Leaky Clark, Xcel's energy president, resign over Monticello nuclear plant leak scandal? Duh. Yes, Dana. I'm just asking. I got to ask. That's my job. It's okay. I don't mind. I'm used to it. Oh, South Korea's opposition leader calls on Yoon to reject imports of products from the nuclear wasteland. That's so awesome. Great big turd in the punch bowl. Don't. They'll straighten him out. He won't ask no more questions by tomorrow. They'll have him sorted out. You're not talking about Fukushima around hell, you bastard. Well, no, they shouldn't take food from a nuclear wasteland. Hang on. 684. I just got to be able to find my way back. 684. Where to? 684. I got to go to 349. Hang on, I'm almost there. No, higher than that. There's one of them I'm looking for. That's Fukushima, by the way. Well, that's double pictures in that one. Japan is growing. That's in the middle of the 14 prefectures that are banned by 55 countries for over a decade. Not Canada. We're not actually a country, see? So they couldn't ship it anywhere only to Canada. animals, eh? And that they're exterminating you. So, 55 countries banned it in 14 prefectures. How bad was it? And how bad is it? And then these are two different farms from mainstream media complaining that people are saying the food is radioactive. But, they admit that they're growing right alongside of thousands and thousands of 1-ton bags of radiation. But it's like a banana, Dana, and walking in the sunshine, climbing the mountains, and sleeping on airplanes. But it's not. It's really, 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 really not. Oh shit, I forgot the number. This could be bad. Or fun, who knows? I think it was 680 something. Where's Yoon to? Oh no, that's the opposition party, that guy. The Democratic Party will make sure the radiation-contaminated products will not be put on your table, so vote Democratic. Hey, that's a win for me. But the nuclear industry in South Korea is vicious. South Korea shipped back in just one go 6 million pounds of fish that was too radioactive to have in the country. A little slip here, a little slip there, a little blink there, and a little blink here, blink there, blink. Should Chris the Leaky Clark, Xcel's energy president, resign? Well, we got a stunning 95% of the population thinks Chris the Leaky Clark should resign. DP leader vows to use all possible means to hold him accountable. Excellent. There's got to be some good news with all this freaking terrible propaganda. Why Japan isn't tapping into the incredible geothermal potential. That's an interesting statement, and that's from oil price. How many times have we recovered them? 600 times probably. They're always vultures, right? They're always predators. So why are they bringing it up? They were watching this shit, right? Somebody is. And whoever wrote the article is like, hey, Durnford's got a point. Damn, never thought about it. Oh, the hot spring, they got 11,000 hot springs there. That's not the perfect spot to have geothermal at all. Throw them out, every one of them, like you done at Fukushima. There's only 11,000 of them. And then build your geothermals there. 11,000 geothermal plants, going to free up the country, going to save your country. And you can give them free homes in Fukushima, for Christ's sakes. That way you don't have to worry about them having children coming after you later. It's a win-win, right? I suppose. This is a great story. Ocean thermal energy conversion demonstration, Okinawa. Well, I wonder where the money came from there. Aiming to commercialize world's first ocean thermal energy conversion from 600 feet down. They're going to pump water and convert cold to warm and reuse the water after to grow fish in, because they just want to get the heat, right? The cold, rather. And they can... actually, I don't remember. I read through it, but I don't remember. Aims to achieve the world's first commercialized 1 megawatt scale by 2026. So that's what 1 megawatt. So that'll power 1,000 homes. And the only problem is it doesn't release any radioactivity into the environment, and it's not surrounded by farms. So the nuclear industry says it can't exist. It's a terrible idea. It's nice and it works. We can't have that. That's too big competition, for God's sakes. Nuclear power takes up less space than solar and wind. I never heard that one before. That's a new one. Wow, that stunned me. I was left thinking all by myself for about 6 hours. I just sat there. I was like, wow. Actually, I heard that thousands of times just this year alone. What's the appropriate response to that story, I wonder? Let's look at who the author is. Hi, my family were scumbags. I grew up, I'm a scumbag. Nuclear power takes up less space than Well, that's up for debate, isn't it? Let's see. Let's analyze. Let's analyze that statement here. Nuclear power takes up less space than solar or wind. One way for climate activists to address the public concern about the land needed for large-scale green energy is to reconsider nuclear plants, okay? All right. That's pretty interesting. The most powerful nuclear detonation ever carried out. Well, let me start with this one first. So, the original question, I got kind of lost here, was nuclear power takes up less space than wind or solar. Okay. This was a study from 2019, May the 5th. Radioactive fallout from the testing program in the Marshall Islands, Bikini Atolls, contaminated a huge swath of the land and the ocean extending over 1 million square kilometers and severely impacted the habitability of the affected atolls. It's radioactive forever. Yeah, but Dana, that's only 1 million square kilometers. Nuclear power plants are better, see? Because they make that stuff. Over 1 million square kilometers. Yeah, Dana, but nuclear power takes up less space, Dana. That's interesting, yeah. The Castle Bravo was a nuclear war. It was actually 5,500 square miles, had a lethal dose around that in the ocean. Way bigger than they expected. It was 7,000 square miles of fallout, of heavy fallout. This covers the whole planet eventually. 15 megatons was equal to 1,000 Nagasaki, because it's a plutonium bomb. It was equal to 1,000 Nagasaki, not Hiroshima's, because Hiroshima was a uranium bomb. Castle Bravo was a plutonium bomb, right? And you can see it from 620 miles away. I think I got that in the wrong spot. Yeah, I missed the headline. So the Soviets bomb, the Tesa Bomba, whatever they call it, was equal to 3,800 Nagasaki, because that was a plutonium bomb, not a uranium bomb. So it's not. The Hiroshima was 15 kiloton, but so was the Nagasaki, but that was a plutonium. The difference is significant because of the fallout. So it was equal to Russia and China firing 1,900 Nagasaki bombs at the same spot at the same time, each. Is that a nuclear war? Would that nuclear fallout be the same as a nuclear war fallout? Well, yes, it would, Dana. Yeah, but no. Nuclear takes up less space than solar or wind, Dana. So stop your fear-mongering. Japan's authorities found the highest levels of radiation in rainwater they've ever detected because of the Taser Bomba, the Soviets. This was an interesting story about nuclear. Federal appeal panel says the state can't protect Hanford workers. So they won a lawsuit. And what it basically amounted to was that to qualify for compensation at Hanford Nuclear 585 square mile site, nuclear wasteland, they need another $700 billion to try to clean up. Workers only need to be employed for a single 8-hour shift and you can get a pension. Even if it's 50 years ago, you don't have to provide a link. To assume that the radiological chemical exposure at Hanford caused any cases of neurological diseases or respiratory illnesses and other diseases that are filed by someone who worked there, even if you're a day worker and you worked there. But no. Nuclear takes up less room than solar and wind, Dana. Well, geothermal Beats all of them, right? Western governor wants nuclear testing compensation expanded, including in Utah. Yeah, this is a beauty. The changes to the 1990 Radiation Exposure Compensation Act would add every single human in Nevada, Arizona, and Utah, and Colorado, and Idaho, Montana, New Mexico, and Guam. Every human would be entitled to up to $150,000 because their health was destroyed from radioactive fallout. Every single human. No, Dana, the nuclear takes up less space than solar and wind. You take up too much space. People like you should have to lose a lung right away so you don't breathe too much air. French nuclear tests exposed the entire Polynesian population to radiation. No, Dana, nuclear takes up less space than solar and wind. 75 years after nuclear testing in the Pacific began, fallout continues to wreak havoc. Yeah, but nuclear takes up less space than solar and wind, Dana. Story of Britain nuked Christmas Island and how they can't even go back to the Montebello Islands in Africa or Australia because of radioactive fallout from 7 years ago. The United Kingdom went down there and radiated. Like a lot of the bombs they set off, they waited for the winds to blow across Australia and then they set off the nuclear bombs. They went into the deserts and set off 700 plus dirty bombs where they wrapped up plutonium fission, obviously, and uranium fission materials with conventional explosives and detonated them. Which is the only history we know of dirty bombs being used. These places are still incredibly radioactive today, and begrudgingly, 2 decades later, gave them $90 million and said, don't ask for another nickel. Long after the damage and the victims are sick. And spent seven administrations refused to acknowledge the soldiers were radioactive, and this was on purpose. That was part of the testing, to expose them to radiation, study them and their offsprings for the rest of their lives. That was the study. Why do you think they built Nagasaki and Hiroshima back on nuclear bomb craters? If you don't think they're evil, think about that. They built the cities back on the nuclear wastelands so they can study generations of the radiation effects, and then use that to downplay it and to minimize it and to desensitize you. Radiation hotspots. Legacy of British nuclear tests lingers on Western Australia, Maralinga, Monticello, in the deserts. In Adelaide, one of the tests that they done, it was 90,000 counts per minute in Adelaide, 1,800 kilometers away. All the sheep died. And nuclear industry got bonuses, performance bonuses for radioactive sediment persists in the ocean floors of the archipelagos of the Montebello Islands. 265 islands. You shouldn't spend more than an hour there. In other words, you shouldn't go there. 50 years, well, it's 60-something years after America's worst nuclear meltdown. And Santa Susana was 459 times more radioactive fallout than was released in 1979 at 3 Mile Island. And 3 Mile Island was a huge plume, by the way. No, Dana, nuclear takes up less space than solar and wind. Let's ask the whales. 70 emaciated whales. Now they got a documentary coming out saying they all died from ship strikes. Ships are out there trying to run them over. They don't like them. They got something against whales. U.S. biologists probed to death. Now, it wasn't just gray whales were showing up emaciated. It was humpbacks. It was beak whales. It was many, many species. What do we got here? Is that you, Charlie? Oh, sorry, man. My apologies.
Dana?
Yeah, it's Dana, yeah.
Oh, are you? Oh, how are you? Hey, I had a question for you, Dana. I'm Cleveland Marco. You may see me once in a while.
I seen your videos on YouTube. Yeah. Hi, Cleveland.
Yeah, okay. I've been watching you for 10 years, off and on.
Yeah, I know. I seen you out there for the last 10 years.
Yeah, and I'm pretty, I'm kind of an activist too. Me and Organic Slant are buddies. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. No, have you been around for a
Yeah.
very long time? I can remember you way back. Go ahead.
Yeah. Here's my question. You tell me if I'm crazy. We have tritium where they're giving us 20,000 picocures per liter, and Europe's only at 2,800. And my thing is that tritium is, they put the metal into the water as like an absorber, so the tritium is created through fission, and it's in the water. And sure, we have tritium leaks, but the tritium is like a beta, right? And they say that if you live near a nuclear power plant, you get exposed to tritium. And then they try to tell us that 20,000 picocures per liter tritium is safe. And then yet they dump it, all the stuff that comes off, if a bird flies over a tower, it's going to get a little bit of tritium. And if it deposits in the lake, the tritium has a 12-year half-life. And so it accumulates for 12 years. And it gets more and more and more and more. So my question is does that accumulate in our body more and more and more just from drinking water near, like from Lake Erie and things like that? Because the levels are getting higher, 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 and higher from, 90 or 80 plants that we have in America, 500 of them in the world? And why is tritium at 20,000 safe for us, but 9,000 is not safe for people in Europe? Is that a loaded question?
Europe is 15 counts per minute. America is, Canada is 7,500 counts per minute. These are criminal numbers, by the way. And I think Sweden is 20 counts per minute or something. France is the same, where they have so many accidents, right? And so those types of numbers, this is saturation numbers you're talking about. So all the plants, all the trees, all the humans, all the species are being saturated continuously with beta. Now, it can't just be tritium. See, so where is so much excess coming from? In order to have these high numbers, because if you look at the Canadian reactors, they have a huge issue with the releases. And so you're being poisoned anyway, basically. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing because I'm trying not to scream. You're being poisoned. That's huge numbers. That's an assault.
When they say they lay the tritium layers, the levels in America are 20,000 picocures per liter.
It's radioactive water, so it's released by air and released into the drinking water. It's released, like the intakes for the big cities are right alongside the nuclear power plants where they're releasing huge numbers. So the intakes are right alongside of that. And this is how they're trying to keep the numbers down, right, is they're feeding it to the population. That's by design. And this is why most nuclear power plants are surrounded by farms, to move the radiation out of that area, because farmers are prolific, right, for growing stuff and moving it out of the area. And again, they're targeting the human population with this constant. So you've heard of other stuff like the fluoride communities that use fluoride in the drinking water.
Oh yeah. I'm all, you know me, man.
Yeah.
I'm writing a book on all this stuff.
Right.
And so I've been doing this kind of shit for, I don't know.
No, you have
40
so. Like, as long as I can remember.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, as long as I can remember. I see you out there all the time, yeah. You've been around a long time.
I'm not just nuclear. I'm everything, man. Yeah. Bugs and all kind of stuff. But what gets me is they're releasing this shit right now. In one of our states up in north, they've been releasing like
Minnesota,
gallons of it, right? And then what about Chicago had 6 releases? And what about Florida? If the aquifer is getting all full of it.
They're legally allowed to release it, right? They keep increasing the limits. They also have incinerators on site, But they released it airborne, and they release it into the waterway. All plants are doing it, and they've been trying to normalize it, right? To acclimate people to thinking that it is normal. But many countries have resisted that. Like Europe is 20 counts per minute. California is only 15 counts per minute. Is acceptable per liter. And so you got huge numbers. You're talking about huge numbers. And it can't just be the tritiated water. And so folks not familiar, it's radioactive water. And so this also gets airborne, right? So you're breathing it in. It's in the fog. It's released in the morning. In the morning dew, it's reliberated back into close to the ground surface where the children and pets and everything are too. And of course, your pets are licking their feet all the time. And for us, when we're drinking it or washing in it or cooking our food in it and stuff like that, it's perfectly assimilated into your body. It can absorb through your skin, see? Yeah, it's nasty.
It's food and shit. Noble gases and tritium, and it's all radioactive shit. And
it
so
can't
the
just
more
be
nuclear
tritium.
power, the longer it is, the more we're going to die quicker. I mean,
when they shut down a nuclear plant, infant mortality decreases immediately in the areas, and there's 6 times more breast cancer within 15 miles of a nuclear plant, for instance. Leukemia rates double and triple, and everything else within 15 miles. All the diseases. Yeah, no, you brought up important subject. I'm glad you called, man. That's great stuff. And anything else you want to throw out there?
No. I just want to ask you about the tritium thing. And
that's big numbers. I didn't know that. I think it's supposed to be a 3 or something, right? Because you can't contain it.
What?
Go ahead.
Well, one last question. Why is it that our food, they raised our food 12 times, which is 1,100 times the increased percentage compared to Europe in the food that we're getting from California and all them other places?
They done that after Fukushima. So Europe raised it to 1,100, America raised it to 1,000 becquerels per kilogram, and Japan raised it to 500 becquerels a kilogram and says, hey, look at us, we're only 500, America's 1,000, EU's 1,100, and so our food is a lot safer. And that's what, they all done it at the same time, right? After Fukushima, they raised these limits. South Korea never put it in a ban on imports until 2013. So the worst of the worst was shipped easily into that country in the first 2 years.
Wow. I'm going to have to look that up because I may have wrong numbers then. Because when I try to find this shit on the internet, I thought that they raised American food up to 12 times higher than Europe.
It was 1,200.
Higher.
I think it was. I think it was 1,200 for Europe, 1,000 for America, and 500 for Fukushima. That's the numbers that we get all the time during these news stories. They'll show up randomly, and it'll be the same numbers. And we've been doing this for quite a few years, right? And so those numbers have been steady for all these years. These were I forget the name of the numbers.
So they're lower.
The codex numbers for countries, for EU countries, for United Nations countries. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, so I told people in my video I did 2 videos last week, and I may have told people the wrong thing then. But
that happens. That happens. As far as I know, that's the numbers, right? And I've been using them because I've been bombarded with them over the years on a regular pace.
Yeah.
And that was the original story years ago because we used to talk about that all the time. And, well, you've been around a long time, right? And it's because you get so much thrown at you, it's easy to make those little mistakes. So I wouldn't feel too bad about it. Just correct it in the next video. Said, hey, look it up, and if I'm right, which I'm pretty sure I am, you just want to come out and get them back on the right path, right? These are vicious numbers. These are vicious numbers.
I don't want to take up. I was going to say you probably want to go to. Are you still? You're live right now or no?
Yeah.
Watch it.
Yeah. I'm live right now. This is It's midnight my time.
Oh, you're live right now for me, but you're sleeping. I woke you up, son of a bitch.
No,
sorry.
I'm live. I'm live streaming. I'm doing a live show as we're talking. We're live on my YouTube channel, Nuclear for Dummies.
Oh.
You're in the live show. People know you in the comment section anyway.
I didn't know that. Okay. So hey, well, I'm taking up too much of your time then. So,
okay. No, it's good stuff, man.
By the way, if anyone's listening, Dana is a great person. He's been doing this for, I'm going to say, I remember seeing somebody turn me on to him 10 years ago, and I don't watch it all the time.
No.
I do my own vids
sure.
and stuff. But
yeah, you have lots of videos, yeah. No, you've been around.
Number one on the planet.
Yeah, I remember you from years and years and years now, so you always come by, right?
You're number one. You're number one, Dana.
Thank you, my friend.
Number one.
Good
Thank
stuff.
you so much for the work you do.
Yeah, call in anytime, you know that, right?
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome, my friend. Good to hear from you, by the way, Cleveland. You take care.
Thank you.
Say hi to Organic Slant for me. Yeah, bye-bye. That's Cleveland. Now, a lot of people think these shows are pre-recorded or something, right? And I never do that. I'm always live, and the idea, live is a lot harder, but the idea is so that anybody new coming along is like, hey, wait a second, this is still happening, or this is relevant right today? Wow. And then we do these news shows. The idea of the news shows is to keep the whole story alive about Fukushima, keep it pertinent, and cover the scumbaggery of the nuclear industry at the same time. So it's two birds, one stone. So 70 emaciated whales washing up on the beaches in just one go. They have mortality events for all the species. Now they're desperately trying to blame it on wind turbines and ships. If it was wind turbines, we would see it all around the world for decades, right? But it's, the die-off is being trying to. That's the nuclear industry because they hate wind. But why would you do a wind when you can do geothermal? Don't need no batteries, 24 hours a day. And the money they're spending on wind is designed to cause the conflict. See? It kind of works, but it can't work without. And we've been going for a few hours, have we? I guess we won't get through the rest of it. Let me check the time. I feel my throat is pretty raw, right? Which is usually 2 hours. Well, we've done pretty good tonight. We cover lots of scumbag shit. We got screwed over by Monticello, Xcel Energy's Clark with their propaganda again. So expect that for another week or two to happen. I don't know why they won't come out and show us where the leak is. Show us the video. Show us where it's so harmless. Show us. Or are you nuclear terrorists? As far as I'm concerned, Clark is a terrorist. This is a terrorist. What he's doing is terrorism. He's lying to the population. He's doing it personal because he doesn't trust anybody to keep the lies straight. It's important to maintain control. That's one of their handbook plays for large leaks. So they've had an event. They're shutting it down because it's a high pressure leak, which means it's saturated with uranium, plutonium, and everything else. You can't contain it on site because the site is frozen. It's not going to soak into the ground. The wells are just show and tell. They're just there to manipulate you into thinking that they got it under control. It's a complete fabrication. And the sites are always hemorrhaging radiation because of the fuel pools. That's one of my favorite pictures today. I'll keep that in my shit pile so I can always remember the shithead who caused me to have nightmares and stuttering attacks about the word leak. Turn the word leak into a trigger on me. Bastard. Looks like we got censored pretty good tonight, did we? Should Chris, the leaky leaker, lives by the sea. Clark. Xcel Energy's president resign over Monticello nuclear plant leak scandal. We have a winning 95% of the population has voted roger that. Why, yes sir, may I have another? Ah, yes. That's what should be happening now. They should be down there with the forks or the pitchforks and the torches and burn them out of there. That's a joke, folks. Don't go burn them out of there. Unfortunately, it's not legal anymore. It should be. If it ever is, there'll be lots of people participating. I can show you that. Well, I got basically no views, very few people, bless your hearts. Because I was calling them a terrorist in the description below the video here. So they're like, YouTube, Google, censor this bastard. He realized we're terrorists. La 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 la. La la. Oops, sorry about that, folks. My apologies. I get a little carried away sometimes. Okay, we're going to end the poll on 93 leaky votes. 95% rather voted that he should resign. And have to drink all that water. Or at least bathe in it anyway. Yeah, that's the way it went. And leaking. I was once a leaky leaker like you. Leaking. There's so many songs that work for that, right? Leaking, leak. Mom. Well, here we go. Let's call it a night. Good night, everybody. Thanks for everybody. All that other stuff. I'm just going to stay in the chair and sleep right here tonight. Shut everything off later. Oh, well, let's get it over. We'll call it a night. I just feel like the nuclear industry, as soon as they join the nuclear industry, they should be castrated so they can't have children, right? That's a pretty good start. Oh God, somebody said leak. Have a great night. Come on, we need a couple of thousand people down there to call for him to resign. Have a great night. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. Hugs for everybody. Take care, folks. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you made it this far. Costs us little. Won't go anywhere. It makes me happy. See everybody tomorrow night. Take care, folks.